Welcome, welcome everyone. So excited to have everybody here. We'll keep on letting everyone join the webinar here for about 10 more minutes. And then I'll do some quick housekeeping notes, a quick introduction for our two speakers today, and then we'll go ahead and get the webinar started right at about 3 to be really respectful of everyone's time. Please note, if you are having any kind of technical issues, if you're having trouble hearing anything coming out of your speakers, if you're having trouble seeing the presentation, you can let us know in the chat box, and a NASPO representative will be with you to see if we can help figure out what's going on. Also, if you will be requiring a UPPCC credit hour for today's webinar, please, once the webinar has concluded, email me, Lori Denhart. My email address is ldenhart, that's D as in David, E, N as in Nancy, H-A-R-T, @NASPO.org. I will also put that email address in the chat box a couple of times throughout the presentation, so that way you can grab it if you need it. I'm going to mute myself for a few more minutes while everybody is getting in here, but once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to give it a few more minutes for everyone to get in and get settled, and we'll be starting right at about 3 o'clock. All right, everyone, we're going to give it a couple more minutes. We'll start here at about 3:01. That way we make sure that we're giving everybody all the time they need to get on here and get settled. But once again, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you so much for joining this NASPO webinar brought to you by the George Cronin Awards for Procurement Excellence. Today, we are having our last edition of the 2019 Cronin Award winners with, drum roll, the great state of New York. We are going to be talking with them about their online file requirement system. As we begin, I just have a couple of housekeeping notes. All lines have been muted for today's presentation. After the presentation, audience members will have an opportunity to ask questions through our Q&A box. And please make sure that you type your questions in there. And at the end of the session, I'm going to go over all of those questions together with our speakers as our time allows. Now, today's webinar is eligible for 1 UPPCC credit hour. To receive your certificate at the end of the webinar, please email me, Lori Denhart, with your request. My email address is ldenhart, that's L, D as in David, E, N as in Nancy, H-A-R-T, at naspo.org. I'll also put my email address in the chat box so that way everybody can see it there. At the conclusion of today's webinar, you will be asked to complete just a couple survey questions, guys. I promise it's just like 3 or 4 to provide some feedback. I really want to please ask everyone to just take a couple of minutes just to complete that survey. And it really helps us continue to do webinars and make sure that we're giving you guys the information that you need. Now, for today, we are very excited because we have not 1, but 2 fantastic presenters. First, we have Ms. Terry Allen, who is the Assistant Director of Commodities and Services with New York State's Office of General Service and Procurement Services. Terry has over 34 years of experience with the state of New York, specializing in contracts and procurement. Her areas of purview include miscellaneous commodities and services, medical, and food. Terry has a master's degree in public administration from the University at Albany Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy. Our second presenter today is Mr. Jamie Newsom. Jamie is the Assistant Director of Commodities and Services, New York State Office of General Services and Procurement Services. He has 19 years of experience in contract administration with the state of New York. His specific areas of expertise include office, education, printing, road materials, traffic safety, moving services. Wow, Jamie, you are really kind of known for it all. Jamie has a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration from the University of Massachusetts at Lowell. And I am so excited to have them both here. Once again, thank you, Jamie and Terry, for participating in this webinar with us, and I'm going to turn it over to you now. Jamie, Terry, can you guys hear me? I think you may have us on mute.
Hello?
There you are, Terry.
Sorry.
It's okay. I only do that every day, so it's fine. All right, Jamie, Terry, I'm going to turn it over to you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lori. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the New York State Online Filed Requirements System presentation. My name is Terry Allen, and Jamie Nussbaum will be my co-presenter. On behalf of our data, road materials, food, and IT teams, I wish to thank NASPO for recognizing their efforts and day-to-day work with our online filed requirements system. All right, 1 second, we're having a technical glitch on our end.
Lori, for some reason, the PowerPoint won't advance.
This way.
Oh, okay. Oh.
We got it.
Got it back? Okay.
All right.
No worries.
All right. So this afternoon, we'll be going over what is the Filed Requirement System, or FRS. It's innovation, service improvement, cost reduction, lessons learned, the successes we've had with it, its transferability, our continuing efforts to improve it, and then we'll take your questions, and hopefully we'll be able to answer all of them. So New York has several filed requirement centralized contracts. A filed requirement is a commitment from an authorized user to New York State Office of General Services, or OGS, to procure a certain product, including the estimated quantity the authorized user intends to procure for a 12-month period. New York State Procurement Services, New York State OGS Procurement Services does centralized contracts on behalf of our almost 8,000 users. And those include state agencies, municipalities, school districts, counties, towns, not-for-profits, and so forth. For many years, OGS has utilized a manual system to obtain the filed requirements from authorized users. And as we'll discuss this afternoon, it was an inefficient process. The filed requirements system is an online self-service system that collects information on specific commodities and delivery locations needed by authorized users. We then bring that committed volume to the bidder community. The amount requested and submitted is called the filed requirement. When authorized users file requirements online, it assists the New York State Procurement Services in communicating their needs to the vendor community before a solicitation. It helps the vendor understand how much is needed and where it will be delivered, which assists the vendors in managing their inventory, as well as picking a lower price point incorporating delivery fees. OGS currently has filed requirements for road treated salt, milk, and certain transportation and heating fuels. For example, each year at the end of winter, agencies, municipalities, and authorized users who plan to buy from the road salt contract submit the number of tons of salt they plan to purchase for the next season. This is referred to as the road salt solicitations filed requirements. Submitting the filed requirements for road salt obligates the buyer to purchase at least 70% of the salt they filed for at the contract price, and obligates the salt company to supply up to 150% of the amount of salt the buyer filed for at the contracted price. It also includes price escalators kicking in at 120%, 130%, and 150% of a buyer's filed requirements. In 2018, state and local governments and other authorized users filed to purchase approximately 3.6 million tons of salt for the upcoming winter season. This salt was delivered to over 2,000 locations statewide. The amount of salt and the locations were known in advance of the bid to assist the vendors in submitting a price that was competitive and provided savings to the state. As stated earlier, in the years before the FRS, the process for gathering authorized users' requirements was manual. Letters were mailed out to customers requesting the volume of product needed for salt, milk, and fuels, which were then returned to procurement services. The manual process was costly in time and resources and more susceptible to human error when processing product requests. And this obviously led to a lot of frustration for the staff, the bidder community, contract users, finger pointing. Definitely not good. So as a result, we needed to innovate. With assistance from our IT team, we developed the online FRS and started with the road salt solicitation in 2011 and gradually included fuels. The online FRS allows users to input their information to view the previous year's volumes and delivery locations and to enter their current requirements for road salt and fuels. While we have seen some exceptional instances of other states gathering requirements from customers and then making either committed or indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, we believe our system to be unique. The FRS pre-populates the purchase volume from the previous year when state and local government purchasers log on to commit to a purchase volume for the next year's requirements. Over the last 5 years, this system has saved OGS and our authorized users over $1.8 million in postage, reproduction, mailing, and staff time. We process actual requirements for 14.6 million tons of salt, 150 million gallons of gasoline, 197 million gallons of diesel fuel, 19 million gallons of liquid propane gas, and 153 million gallons of heating, kerosene, bioheating fuels. During that time frame, those volumes were delivered to over 35,000 delivery locations across the state. What makes FRS unique and innovative is it gathers guaranteed spend based on actual volumes that the users have themselves entered into the system. It allows the customers the ability to budget for the upcoming year for a variety of commodities. This assists them in balancing their budget across numerous commodity areas. Also, the FRS is a system which feeds authorized users the previous year's requirements. This allows the customers to see what was previously requested, and they can then analyze versus what was used and dollars spent across the years. This allows them the ability to view trends across years and better plan for what may be needed in the upcoming year. In addition, this is helpful especially when authorized user staff turnover rates, where previous order information may be hard to obtain. So the data tracking capabilities with the FRS automatically provide authorized contract users with their previous year's requirements, as we've said before. This allows the customers to see what was previously requested so they can analyze both the quantity of commodities used and the dollars spent across the years. It gives them the ability to view trends and better plan for what may be needed in the upcoming year. And as you know, the staff turnover happens especially at customer locations. So the ease of access to information from past years that the system provides is especially helpful to authorized contract users that have experienced staff turnover. Overall service to our customers and the vendor community has improved. Some specific examples include communication and sourcing strategy, where the FRS pushes emails to users with instructions on how to complete and a link to the database. The instructions include to log in, submit needed quantities, and adding delivery locations. This is a vast improvement over the paper mailing process. Contract management specialists use database reports to identify previous filers. When a previous filer does not use or answer the automatic email notice, they can contact those individual filers through email or phone call to alert them to the current solicitation of filed requirements for the specific commodity. This is to ensure that they are part of the bid and receive the best price from an aggregated purchase. In addition to the email from the FRS, Procurement Services also sends emails through the Purchaser Notification System that we have. We call it PNS to the entire mailing list. The Purchaser Notification System that New York maintains is a system that sends out notices of contract changes, updates, and new awards to any of our authorized users who sign up and they choose which commodity or service that they're interested in learning about. In addition, as a last resort to previous email notifications, we also send a postcard reminder to the authorized user. This is especially helpful when there is staff turnover and the previous email address may not be active. The postcard alerts existing and new staff of the upcoming filing period and reminds them to register in the system if they haven't already. The postcard is typically addressed to an individual or generally to town clerk. So if there is turnover, the new staff can see the notification and then act. Excuse me one sec. Yeah. There we go. Sorry for that. The system also assists the contract management staff in the decision on whether to have a new bid for a needed commodity versus conducting full or partial contract extensions. So overall, there are decisions that have to be made based on market conditions and proposed needed quantities for bid. Having the quantities needed for procurement assist the contract management staff in which strategy they should undertake each year. If the market conditions are stable and the quantities are the same, sometimes an extension is the best path forward. However, sometimes the opposite is true and a new bid is needed. Having all or most of the information upfront is extremely helpful. Lastly, the FRS has the ability to run reports. So when the contract managers have the previous filings, they can compare them to the current filings. Contract managers can review to identify missing customers, identify outliers with the filed requirements, and see if there are trends in certain areas of the state regarding the delivery locations. One thing is nice where if the city of Buffalo has asked for 1 million tons of salt in the past, and now they're only asking for 10,000 tons of salt, obviously that's going to draw a red flag, and the contract manager can notify the city of Buffalo to confirm that indeed they really want such a large reduction in road salt. So we can use this information to prioritize the delivery of road salt when there's affected areas. Authorized users can update their account information from the previous year or register if they are not already in the system. This is especially important given staff turnover. The contract managers and emergency personnel have access to actual delivery locations and contacts. This information is used frequently to assist with prioritization and communication of delivery changes in the event of a snow or icing event or extended cold spell, allowing the delivery of salt from a non-affected area to one with imminent or current storm conditions, or during times of road salt shortages and delivery delays. You may recall a few years ago in 2014, the city of Buffalo was hit with over 7 feet of snow. And the contract managers were able to help replenish the stock of road salt from other areas that didn't need all of their road salt to allow the city of Buffalo to get ready for the next winter event once they had gotten through the brunt of the 7 feet of snow. We also do training of the FRS. So last year we had a filed requirements class at our 2019 annual New York GovBuy event that we host every year for authorized users. And this class is available on our website. In addition, we teach filed requirements as part of our annual Power of Purchasing outreach events, which are conducted at various locations across the state. The system allows for much improved vendor relations. Early estimates provide the state an opportunity to make better sourcing decisions, whether it's the need for negotiation, partial rebid, or total rebid strategies. Vendors know that procurement services has done an analysis of previous filed requirements and have chosen the best solicitation strategy for their commodity for that given year. It's definitely not a surprise to them. While we guarantee volumes in almost all the areas, contractors are also obligated to accept orders from state agencies who have not committed. For non-state entities who have not filed but need the commodity, the contractor is not obligated to, but can at their option, provide the commodity. The constant interaction between the contract manager, the customer contacts, and the contractor make the likelihood of supplying to non-filers higher because of the relationship enhancements. It also fosters faster communication of potential supply disruptions, which leads to quicker and more productive discussions about potential solutions. Turn it over to Jamie.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Jamie Nussbaum, and I'll be handling the second half of the presentation. And I'll begin by discussing cost reductions achieved and requirements processed through the FRS over the last 5 years, some of which were briefly touched on by Terry. Again, we estimate savings achieved in reduced staff time, milling costs, and paper reduction totals approximately $1.82 million over the last 5 years. The data from the FRS allows us to make better contracting decisions and provides us with information to negotiate either additional discounts, price reductions, or reduction of storage fees for unused product. For example, in the road salt area, we have used the FRS information to extend contracts in specific counties with low volume and negotiate away contractual price hikes allowed after 120% of filed requirements have been purchased. We have also used the information to negotiate the elimination of contractually allowed salt storage fees in those years when users use less than the required 70% minimum of their filed requirements volumes. This slide provides a brief overview of contract requirements processed over the last 5 years through the FRS. We've contracted for 14.6 million tons of road salt, 150 million gallons of gasoline, 197 million gallons of diesel fuel, 19 million gallons of LP gas, 153 million gallons of heating, kerosene, and bioheating fuels. And although not included in these figures, the FRS was also used to process an average of 7 million decatherms of natural gas per year. Now we'll discuss some lessons learned and successes realized through the implementation of the FRS. Lessons we've learned. Continued customer relationship management and personal contact with vendors and contract users is needed. to optimize the customer experience. We achieve this through email notifications, postcard reminders, and website communications. We also have guidelines posted within the FRS which users may refer to in order to better facilitate the submission of their requirements. We continue to note opportunities for system enhancement and work closely with our IT team to implement improvements. However, there is still a need for staff to evaluate user input, which includes examining data for transposition and other human errors to comply with proper contract administration. As a unified system for fuels and road salt, the FRS has provided a more consistent and convenient one-stop shopping experience for users. Information on the filing parameters for different commodities housed within the system, reducing user confusion, and users have confidence in knowing they have a continued source of supply. Requirements collected through the FPS results in contractors having real data to assist them up and down their supply chain. Staff saves processing time, allowing them to allocate more time to other aspects of contract administration and customer service. I'm going to discuss the transferability of such a system. How may your state implement something like this? This concept of an online file requirement system is easily transferred. The technology is database driven with a simple registration and logon process. The idea that all types of users can access a closed system with a simple registration and login and then provide committed volumes is one any state should be able to implement and add to their public website. Although we currently use the FRS for the specific types of commodities identified, another state could expand its use to cover a variety of different commodities and services, especially when there's a need to identify and commit to buying what's awarded. In summation, we'll discuss OGS's continuous improvement, benefits of the FPS, and then we'll take some questions. OGS is consistently looking to make improvements to the FPS. One enhancement we're looking to implement is combining our purchaser notification system, which we use to push out email notifications regarding awarded contracts and subsequent updates to contract users with the FRS, allowing for a single sign-in to two frequently used OGS systems. We're currently undergoing a database restructuring project in which we'll be looking to upgrade system capabilities, including improved communication tools. We're also looking into expanding training materials to reach more users. In closing, the FRS saves time, saves money, allows ability to process large quantities of data, provides better insight in the sourcing process, allows for better customer service and vendor relations. The concept is transferable, and improvement of the FRS is based on customer needs and evolving technology. I guess now we'll turn it over to questions.
Hey, Jamie. Looks like we've had a couple questions come in from our attendees. Okay, see, our first one wants to know, what were some issues that you experienced that you didn't expect when launching a self-service system? We all know what working with a large amount of, people can be like. Do you have any tips on overcoming those issues?
I think we just needed to, getting the word out to people to use it. So that's why we had traditionally a paper process in the past. We went to the email process. Because there were still people who either because of staff turnover or they just weren't paying attention, we had to come up with the postcard system to make sure that we were catching everybody. And there are still some instances where we have to reach out to our authorized users and say, hey, we have, would you like to get some salt next year?
Right.
Or fuel or whatever it might be. But so it's not perfect, and that we've stepped up our training also as a result. So I think it's just that was the initial thing going, every time you go from something that's manual to something that's online and getting people over that hump. This isn't, it's not a terribly difficult system for them to deal with. But once, we got over that educational hump, I think, things are working very well.
I would say that's right on. Especially when you're dealing with municipalities, which we deal with a lot. There tends to be a lot of turnover from election cycle to election cycle. So, like Terry said, just getting the word out and getting people accustomed to using an online system versus a paper-based system that they're, been relying on for quite some time.
Change is hard for some folks.
I mean, isn't it always part of it, right? Looks like our next question has came in. Is the FRS used for state agencies only, or is it used by cities, townships, county, education, or other end users?
Nope, it's actually used by all of our authorized users. Anyone that has the statutory ability to use our contracts can use the system to submit their filed requirements.
So so in case, as I mentioned earlier in the beginning, we have almost 8,000 authorized users, and they're definitely not all state agencies. They could be any of the municipalities, counties, villages, towns, and so forth.
Looks like our next question is coming in, and so this is focusing on the actual FRS system itself. Was this a large undertaking for your tech department to build the entire system, or did you outsource that, the actual building of the FRS?
It was done internally. We did not have to outsource it. It was.
It's a homegrown system.
It's a homegrown system. It was done in Access.
Mm-hmm. Very, very interesting. In my former life in state government, I had a homegrown compliance system myself in Access, so I'm pretty familiar with that. Let me see here. Looks like we have another question. Wanting to know, so all this data that you've been able to collect from the online system, right? What all have you been able to do with it besides what you touched on today? And by that specifically, have you seen improvement ripple effects in other areas? And if so, what are those areas?
Well, right now we're only using it for fuel and road salt. Having access to fresh data has been very beneficial for us. I think Terry touched on this in her presentation a little bit. Allows us to make better informed sourcing decisions.
Mm-hmm.
We also use the data, obviously, for our estimated bid quantities.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to have the history too, like Terry said, when you can find the anomalies, when you know what I mean. When we go through the data, we compare year to year, and it immediately can tell if there's disparities, if someone might have earned when they submitted their filed requirements. So it's easy. It makes it a lot easier for us to manage the data in real time.
Now, out of curiosity, and this is my own question, have you seen improvement from the vendor side? I mean, I'm sure because you are, able to have such kind of up-to-date information that you would see some vendor relationship improvement. What's that been like?
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things I don't think I touched on is that having the committed volumes does definitely improves our vendor relation for them to schedule delivery and logistics, and having more control over their supply chain.
Of course.
So area of salt, to supplement their own drivers, they use a fleet of independent truckers who during the non-winter months deliver road materials. So having real volumes in the solicitations based on the filed requirements we receive via the system provides contractors the opportunity for supply chain management improvements, specifically getting commitments from delivery companies who can plan their work and keep drivers employed in the winter time.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like that's actually it's enabling you guys to give back to multiple levels and outlets to the great state of New York. That's great. That's wonderful. Let's see here. Does anybody else have any other questions? It looks like I've went through all of them that came into the box. Anybody else have any other questions? We'll give it just a minute, guys. Sometimes it takes it a second. All right, everyone. Well, Terry, Jamie, you guys both did an amazing presentation today. Thank you so much for having us, and thank you so much for joining us. And to everyone for joining the webinar today, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Make sure you stay tuned for our 2020 Cronin winners, which will, of course, be announced after our annual conference this year in August. And I look forward to seeing everyone and working with everyone further as we go through this next year of projects. Please know I am dropping my email address in the chat box again really quick, because if you need that UPPCC contact hour, please email me for it. I'm more than happy to get that for you, or a copy of today's slide deck. And if you have any questions or anything like that for Terry or Jamie that you'd like to know, you can always reach out to me, and I'm happy to get in touch with them for you. Also, please don't forget that at the end of the webinar, as soon as it ends, a survey page is going to automatically open up for you. I believe there's 3 or 4 questions there. This shouldn't take more than just a minute of your time. And if you would be so willing to complete that survey, it really, really, really helps me on my end, and I'd greatly appreciate it. With that being said, Terry, Jamie, thank you both so much for having us and for educating us all and telling us all about this great program. And congratulations again on being a 2019 George Cronin Award for Procurement Excellence finalist.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, everyone, have a great day and have a great weekend.